If you get invited to be a podcast guest, you're in luck. And that's because it means you have the opportunity to promote yourself and your business to a whole new audience. It's a proven way to elevate your reputation as an expert in the industry, but only if you make a good impression, of course. Stay tuned on Moxie Talk, where I will teach you the best practices for becoming a podcast guest that everyone loves. Hi everyone, I'm Fia Fastbinder and welcome to Moxie Talk, where we help you find your voice, share your message, and lead with confidence. Before I get started, don't forget to subscribe and hit that alert button to be the first to hear about any of our new episodes. Now, the first aspect I want to touch on is how to become a podcast guest in the first place. Many people assume they need a good reputation already to get the invite. But in reality, many podcast guests you've heard of are actively marketing themselves to get on different shows. To market yourself, this is the approach I recommend. First, make your availability and expertise known across every social media platform. This is because when a podcast host is looking for a potential guest, they're asking two questions. One, would this person be right for my show? And two, would they even want to be on my show? So you can easily address this by adding a note on each of your profiles saying that you are open to being a podcast guest. And if you can, try to post or share content that shows your expertise. Of course, this is a pretty passive approach, so you might also want to take the initiative and reach out to podcast shows yourself. But with so many podcasts out there, you may be wondering how to find the right one for you. The answer? Simply look into other experts in the same field as you. For example, let's say you're an entrepreneur who specializes in growing nonprofits. You're likely to follow certain bloggers and maybe industry experts. All you have to do is dig around to see if they've been featured on any podcasts and then reach out to those same shows. It's pretty good sleuthing, right? As long as your background is aligned with the podcast topic, they're likely to be interested in having you on the show. Here's a side note though. Keep in mind that it's unusual for a podcast guest to get paid for their appearance on the show. The compensation for this is usually the benefits of exposure to a whole new audience. Okay, moving on. Let's say you've been in contact with the host and they want to have you on their show. A time and date has been picked out and there's a few days or weeks until the recording. What do? From your audio and your video equipment to how you sound and present yourself, every factor will contribute to helping you stand out and impress. We say this all the time at Moxie because it's the number one way to guarantee your success. Prepare, prepare, prepare. Being a well-prepared podcast guest will likely lead you to be invited back. It will improve your personal reputation, and it may even lead to more opportunities. There's literally no downside. Now, let's cover all the bases to ensure you give a stellar performance. I've said this a lot in my previous media training videos, and that's to use the best microphone you can get. Bad audio is literally the worst thing for a podcast, so avoid it at all costs. And because most podcasts are recorded remotely, you have to rely on your own equipment. A good mic is around $60 to $100, which is a really worthwhile investment if you consider how many virtual calls and meetings we do anyways these days. The only technical information I'm going to give is to try and find a microphone with a cardioid polar pattern. This simply means it will capture your voice and any sound in front of the mic really well, while minimizing sounds in other directions. Next, it's important that you record in the right environment. No matter how good your mic is, it's always best to avoid recording in public. Car horns, construction, and any other number of unexpected noises will completely ruin what would have otherwise been a great podcast. So the best solution is to try to find a quiet room far away from any noise. If you want to go a step further, you can even mount acoustic panels or hang up blankets on the walls to make sure that you dampen any external sounds or reduce any echoes. Another factor to consider is that many podcasts are making video recordings to use in their social media and their marketing campaigns. So you should check with the podcast host to see if they want you to be on camera too. If so, you may want to invest in a high definition webcam to ensure you look good in any promotional material. And of course, make sure any room you record in looks clean and tidy. No one wants to see your dirty dishes or your piles of laundry. And if you can, avoid filming in your bedroom, or at least hide any clues that this is where you are. In a worst case scenario, you can simply sit in front of a blank wall. If you can place a plant or a poster or an instrument behind you to add a little personality and style, that would be great. Next, let's talk about the most important aspects of appearing on a podcast, your voice. Now, I've done a number of videos on your voice previously, so please check them out in the comments below if you want a deep dive into anything to do with your voice. But now, getting your voice to sound good isn't an issue unless you're nervous. A quiet or shaky voice can ruin anyone's expertise and anyone's reputation. So I have a proven technique to help you, which is diaphragmatic breathing. It is a guaranteed and the only way to lower your heart rate, help you feel more calm and focused, and best of all, give your voice more power and control. Now, I have a ton of exercises on diaphragmatic breathing, both for your vocal quality and to reduce your pre-presentation jitters, but I'm going to lead you through one of my favorites. So I want you to put your hand on your chest, and I can't do this because of my mic, and the other on your belly. And when you breathe in, rather than feeling your chest and shoulders rise like this, I want you to try and breathe deeply into your stomach instead so that it expands out. I call this horizontal breathing. So for this exercise, you're going to breathe into your belly and a count of 4, 4, 6. So I'm going to demonstrate this now, and then you can do it on your own. You're going to breathe in for a count of 4, and you're going to expand your belly, let it push out, and then you're going to hold it for a count of 4, and then you're going to breathe out for a count of 6. And that's it. Repeat this a minimum of 5 times, and I promise you're going to begin to feel more calm. And be sure to do this before the recording starts. Even if you feel okay, it'll make a world of difference. And if you want some more exercises in how to reduce the shakiness in your voice, check out my previous videos below. I covered that as well. Also, in my last video on how to be a podcast host, I talked about pace, pitch, and power while speaking to add intrigue and impact to your voice. So make sure to check that out as well. Now, moving on. I think it's important that we discuss the relationship between you and the host. Any podcast episode involves 2 people and 2 points of view. So while you may be the expert, it's important to not dominate the conversation and let the host speak as well. If you do all the talking, then there is no exchange and it's just a big monologue, and many podcasts suffer from this. The guest starts talking and then never stops. The host will also make your life easier if you let them. They'll often ask questions that the audience wants to know the answers to and help guide the conversation to the most important topics. So keep this statement in mind. You want to enrich the show, not hijack it. Keep your answers and your comments clear, conversational, and succinct. And understand that this takes practice and preparation. To go the extra mile, you might want to ask the host for questions they'll ask you and prepare your answers, but you don't want to memorize them verbatim. You should always try to provide answers that spark curiosity and interest in the listeners, and it's totally okay to write just talking points, and then you can flesh them out on the show. Always remember that the host knows their audience. So if anything you say warrants a deeper dive, they'll press you with more questions or ask you to just elaborate or unpack it. So don't get stuck in the weeds. Don't go into long, detailed monologues just because you can. One of the best ways to ensure your success, do not, I repeat, do not wing it. It's so easy as a podcast guest to think that all I have to do is show up and things will go smoothly. But to give the host and their audience the most value for their time, it helps to have planned in advance. For this, I recommend a few stories in your back pocket. Storytelling is the real gold of any podcast, and it's what helps bring you and your expertise to life. The host is going to ask you to tell your story so that the audience will know why you're on their show. They'll ask you to provide examples to help explain your concepts or your ideas. If you plan and practice telling a few stories ahead of time, you'll save yourself from turning into a rambling mess when you go live. If you want more details, I've done a ton of videos on storytelling as well, so check those out. Some of them are in the comments below. Now, I also want to talk about your intentions while being on the show. It's tempting to turn airtime into an infomercial and sell from the stage, but it's not going to go over well. Pitching your business during a commercial looks great, but during an appearance as a podcast guest, it just looks tacky and self-centered. Understand that you will sell your brand just fine by not selling. People already expect that you represent some product or some service, and a podcast interview is a safe way for them to feel you out first. If the audience gets a good impression of you, they will naturally be curious about what you offer. They'll check out your website, they'll check out your social media. Remember, people do business with people they like. The host will likely provide an overview about you and your business, and that's where leads will find you. You should also be aware of your mindset. Unless the topic is extremely bleak or serious, you should remember to just relax and enjoy the conversation. You're allowed to laugh. In fact, it's suggested that you laugh. You're allowed to be expressive. You're allowed to use humor. Some people are so afraid of just being themselves on podcasts that they come off as robotic and boring and stiff. And I promise you, just being yourself and enjoying the experience will do wonders for how you sound, and it will be a delight for others to listen to you. They will mirror your enthusiasm and your passion. My recommendation is to see this as if you're talking with a good friend who wants to know more about your expertise, maybe somebody you haven't seen in a long time. Tangents and side conversations are also normal, so don't worry about going off topic if it feels natural. The host will definitely pull things back on topic when necessary. Now, of course, even if you sound good and enjoy yourself, the listeners will still want to hear useful insights to make it worth their time. I did a previous video on audience analysis, which I encourage you to check out or even learn more than I'll cover here. And that can be found in the comments below. But in general, you want to have a strong understanding of the podcast show audience. Who are they? How knowledgeable are they on what you speak about? Why do they listen to this podcast? Doing some simple research is essential. First, listen to at least 2 full episodes of the podcast to get a feel for how the host tailors the content. Note any special segments of the show that reoccur to understand what the audience expects, themes that are running throughout these shows and each guest. You'll also want to read reviews of the podcast and its episode. They're full of great comments about what people like and what they don't like, and they'll give you the best insights into how you can tailor your content to suit their needs. Finally, try to get to know the host of the show as best you can. If they aren't available to talk to you prior to the recording, have a look at their social media and any information or content they've put out there. After all, the show is an extension of the host's personality. And the same is true of every book, painting, and movie. Often when you research the creators, you can see their personality in the production. Moving on, I mentioned at the beginning how important preparation is to success. And one of the critical factors in you preparing is rehearsing. Whether it's your stories, your answers, or even your jokes you hope to tell, I encourage you to practice saying them aloud at least 3 to 4 times. Obviously, the more the better, and practice saying them aloud without a script so you don't memorize verbatim. It will ensure that you say them with ease when it's time for that podcast to go live. And the more comfortable you feel with your own material, the less anxious you'll feel and the better you'll come across. Finally, after the episode airs, don't forget to share that episode wherever you can. This is a part of the value you bring and gain from being a podcast host, and this is part of your compensation. The show host will appreciate the free advertising, which of course is also extra exposure for you, so it's a win-win. Okay, that's a wrap. Remember, while being a podcast guest is a chance to reach a whole new audience, it's also a chance to have fun. If you follow these principles, you'll appeal to the most people and make the biggest impact. Again, people do business with people they like. Make yourself human and likable, and I promise the opportunities will come. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like it, share it with a colleague, subscribe to our channel, and if you want to know more about Moxie Institute, check out our website, moxieinstitute.com. Until next time, don't forget to lead brilliantly, live boldly, and speak with Moxie.